All right. Welcome, everyone. Good afternoon, good evening, and good morning, depending on where you are in the world. I am Shantae Yvonne Taylor, neuroscientist and success trainer, success coach, success strategist. Happy New Year. Cheers to 2023. Look, I'm actually ahead of the game because I have been saying 2023 for the last week for whatever reason. Maybe I've been just anticipating this new year. So today I'm going to talk about the 10 ways that we are going to be able to reset our mindset in 2023 so that we can, I hear my tea is my tea is going. Let's see if my husband will bring me my tea. I think I heard him. He knows. 10 ways to reset our mindset in 2023 so that we can navigate whatever obstacles come our way, but also realign with our goals and what we set out to do. And I'm going to, of course, talk about it from a neuro perspectives, right? So if you are on any social media, unless you've given me permission to see your name, I can't technically see your name, but you can still comment. Okay, and if you have the link to the Zoom, you can come on Zoom and I can see your chat because I want you to be able to ask questions and engage. I need feedback so I can know where to, realign my energy. So welcome. I see Gia, I see Denise, I see Kathy, I see Julie, I see Lori, I see Dr. Renee. Welcome. Okay. Nair is coming. All right. So the first thing I want to do is define reset. Okay. What does that even mean to reset something? So there are several definitions, and whatever definition that I share with you, I want you to decide what it feels like for you, what insights you glean from the definition, because it's going to hit your neurons differently than other people, right? Depending on where you are in time and space. So to reset your mindset means to set again or differently or anew. Okay. It also means to change the reading of, often to zero. Okay. It can also mean to move something back to its original position or place. That can come in handy to think about it like that, right? Like where in time and space did you start to deviate from yourself, from your goals, from your dreams? Where did you start feeling detached from self? Let's reflect and go back to that original space where you felt full of hope and dreams, or you were anticipating a goal. When was that? So I want you also to be reflective as I'm going through these 10 ways, okay? Another definition is to put a broken bone back in the correct position for healing. What happens if your broken bone is never reset? You're never quite right again, right? But if you reset something that is broken, you give it then the opportunity to heal. And that's not to say that we are inherently broken, but there are situations that can break our spirit, right? And maybe we need to reset spiritually, get in tune with ourselves and a divine source, if that's something that is important to you, right? So it's important to reset so you can heal. Where do you need healing? Think about that. Another definition of reset, I don't know, has anybody ever looked up the word reset before? We kind of think we already know what it means, right? It's a whole different perspective when we read the definitions of words we think we have already known all of our lives. It hits differently. So another definition of reset is to put a gem into a new piece of jewelry. To put a gem. What is a gem? It's something that's precious. It can be something sacred. It can be something symbolic to you. And it could be placed, reset into something else that's valuable to you. Repositioned, right? Kathy's bookshelf is distracting me. I'm loving your bookshelf behind you, Kathy. Another definition for reset. If you're just joining us, we're doing 10 ways to reset your mindset in 2023 and beyond. Of course, I'm going to share from a neural perspective all of these things. Okay. Another definition of reset. I have to pause because the Zoom went out. Come on, internet. Another definition of reset is to take something back to its original, recognized, basic functions to get rid of clutter. Did you know reset meant that? Let me read that again. Reset also means to take something back to its original, recognized state, to its basic functions, to get rid of clutter. Where in your life do you need to reset your mind, your space, so that you can get rid of the clutter? Where do you need to get rid of clutter? Because that is where resetting needs to take place. Okay, so those are just a couple of definitions of reset that you can just kind of keep in the back of your mind as I'm going through the 10 ways. So who's ready for number one? Put number one in the chat box. All right, so let's do it. I'm going to read a quote on reset. Solutions sometimes present themselves after a reset. Solutions sometimes present themselves after a reset. After you have changed positions, after you have went back to that original state of mind where you felt hopeful and where you were dreaming and where you were being and where you were aligned and where you were sure. Solutions sometimes present themselves after you declutter your mind, you declutter your space. You see where I'm going with this? So what are the solutions that you've been trying to reach mentally? But because you haven't reset, you haven't been able to glean those insights that are needed. Think about that, because I want you to understand the value of reset. And since everybody's kind of riding this energy of a new year, right? It's a perfect time to reset. All right. So number one, I want you to reset your expectations. So what does that mean? Maybe you set your expectations for 2022 to meet certain goals, weight goals, financial goals, professional goals, whatever that looked like for you. You expected to get to this place. And maybe you fell short. But now you can reset those expectations. But before you reset those expectations, you kind of got to do inventory. What were my expectations? Did I hit my goals? Did I reach those goals? And if not, how did I respond to it? Consciously or subconsciously? Did I start beating myself up about it? Was I kind of taken out of life? Did I isolate? And the reason why I want you to think about your expectations and how you responded, because in order to reset your expectations, you have to make sure that you don't respond again in a way that's self-deprecating. Because it's harder to reach your goals if you have the same habits of thinking if you don't reach your expectations. So you also need to determine, were those expectations realistic? Maybe they were. But maybe there's something that you needed to tweak to meet the expectations. So if it was a financial goal, if it was a career goal, if it was a relationship goal, like, you know, you want to start dating or get married by a certain date, you know, ask yourself, was it realistic? Was it a realistic expectation? Because there's going to be a gap between your realistic expectations and your, your imaginary expectations. And the bigger that gap, the bigger the letdown. Okay. The bigger that gap, the better that belief system needs to be. That planning needs to be. Okay. And maybe you want to close the gap. So here's the chance to reflect on, what were my expectations for 2022? And maybe before that, how you reflected, how you dealt with it. Did it fuel you or did it bring you down? And then after you assess that, determine if your expectations were realistic. How can you reconcile the gap if needed? Okay. Mindset reset number 2. Reset your, I know everybody was waiting for this, right? Reset your healthy lifestyle mindset. Okay. How many of you are trying to lose weight? Put it in the chat. You're trying to lose weight. You're trying to gain muscle. You're trying to eat better, trying to bring down your blood pressure, whatever your healthy lifestyle goals are for 2023. What are you trying to accomplish? Robin says, me. What does that mean? You're trying to lose weight? Denise says, maintain blood pressure. Okay. Let me see what people on Facebook are saying. Or LinkedIn. I see you, LinkedIn. Okay. So there's a lot of ways: feeling better, lose weight, get stronger. Okay. So losing weight is probably the biggest. It's probably number 1. This year, I'm going to do it all, right? I'm going to lose weight. I'm going to exercise every day. I'm going to be committed. I'm going to hit the gym, right? It's coming. And we all know the stats, right? By the time, 8 weeks, 12 weeks come, people have dropped the ball. And then we're in another cycle of what? Feeling down on ourselves, feeling guilty. So we have to break the mindset that's keeping us on the hamster wheel, because it's not moving us forward. And unfortunately, most humans don't make their major changes until something drastic happens with their health. Now I'm going to change because I was in the hospital. I had the anxiety attack, or I had the, heart attack or something like that. But a more evolved way of navigating this human experience is to make decisions and change, not from a place of threat or harm or potential harm or pain, but from our higher selves, because it is a more powerful way of living and being and thriving, right? That's the place when I talk about neuroscience and understanding the brain to advance human potential. I'm saying we need to start using this knowledge, this advanced knowledge of brain science, in a way that's going to allow us to thrive. So in that is us being able to navigate our brains more intentionally, so we are operating from a more inspired place, making the decisions and changing from that more inspired place, and not because we have to, not because we're in pain, not because we waited until all of our systems crashed and burned. Okay, does that make sense? So this mindset shift on your lifestyle, on health, has to change. Okay. And what does that mean? That means if you are looking to change your eating lifestyle, okay, maybe you want to make sure you have more greens in your diet, right? Or reduce how much sugar you eat. Most people want to get rid of everything all at once and do it all at once. The brain is going to naturally reject that, because you have mental pathways that are already dedicated to routine and eating a certain way and shopping a certain way. So if you try to change everything at once, your eating habits at once, then your brain is going to go into overload. It'll be overwhelmed with the new way of using mental energy. Now it has to focus on different ingredients. It has to focus on where these new ingredients are in the store, right? We don't really consciously think about all of that, but the brain is going through all that. So if we only have so much time for willpower before our willpower depletes our mental energy in our higher brain, called the prefrontal cortex. Okay. And we still kind of have to feed those old mechanisms. So if you've been used to eating sugar and then you cut yourself off from sugar or from caffeine or anything like that, your body is going to go into shock. And it'll be hard to ward off those urges, because your nervous system is conditioned to eat a certain way, to feel a certain way from the sugar, from the caffeine, whatever it may be. So you have to make gradual changes. The brain and body, the nervous system doesn't do well with change overnight, to just go cold turkey. And it's actually dangerous. If you think about it, it's dangerous, right? In other situations, like if someone is addicted to drugs, some of those drugs, they have to be monitored. They have to be weaned off. So we have to think of food as a drug, essentially. Change your mindset around how you are going to change your habits of eating. Okay, so that's one way to think about eating, is don't go cold turkey. All right, because your body, your brain will go into shock, and it'll be harder to ward off the urges to continue to eat that way. And so another mindset shift for eating healthier is, what do you already eat? Let's focus on what you already eat. It can't all be junk food. I hope not. But there are some things that, yeah, you eat, and it's fuel for the brain. It's fuel for the body, right? And you probably can increase what you already eat that's on the spectrum of healthy food. So think of healthy food think of food itself, right, as a spectrum. And on that spectrum, you got your junk food and you got the healthiest food on the planet. Pick where your diet or your type of foods that you eat lies on that spectrum. And you know that if it's on the spectrum of junk food, well, those are the things you're going to have to wean yourself off or really limit them, right? And the ones on the higher end of the spectrum, the healthier side of the spectrum, do more of that. That means it's going to take less mental energy for your brain to have to make another decision in this complicated human experience. I'm trying to streamline the process for you, y'all. Let's see what you're saying. Marina says food has its own energy, and that's why we need healthy food. Yes. So if you go down the rabbit hole of healthy food, you can start learning more about what you're eating. Because when you understand the deeper why of what you're eating and how it affects your brain and body, you're more likely to continue to eat that food or drink that substance. Okay. So let's stay on number 2. Reset your mindset for a healthier lifestyle. Taking in nutrition. It doesn't always have to be through food, people, right? So some of us take vitamins, vitamins are okay. We should all be taking vitamins in this human experience, because unless you live on a village somewhere where it's untainted, you are being exposed to pollutions every day in your water, in your food, in the air. And so we're constantly bombarded by free radicals attacking all of our trillions and trillions of cells. Okay. And our food, unfortunately, doesn't have the nutritional value that it once did. So we do need supplementation. So that's good. We also know in science, however, with those supplements, you only absorb about 30%, if that, depending on how healthy your gut is, to absorb those vitamins. Okay. So there's some caveats to that. So what do I want you to shift? I want you to shift your idea that you don't need vitamins, okay, some kind of nutritional value. But I also want you to shift your mindset when it comes to what are some other ways you can absorb nutrients more efficiently? That's the beauty of science. Scientists are always looking at how to do something more efficiently and effectively. And what we have found, and what athletes have known for a long time, is that if you use supplements that go into the bloodstream, you will get about 90%, almost to 100% absorption of some of these vitamins. Your B vitamins, your zinc, your taurine, your metals. But there's a way you don't do them on your own, people. There are facilities where you can go get an IV and not just get hydrated. Okay, so I also want you to shift your mindset on how you can get hydrated, because drinking a gallon of water, how many of you say every year, I'm gonna start drinking a whole gallon of water? And it's like hard to drink all that water and safely. Okay, and then you have to go to the restroom all the time, which interrupts your function, which interrupts your productivity. You see where I'm going with this? So it behooves you to understand other ways to hydrate and take nutrition. So there are facilities that you can go to where they will hydrate you. It's an IV bag, and they can it's like going to a bar. You can select what you want in that IV bag. So not only are you getting your cells hydrated safely, okay, because now it's not going through your digestive system and your kidneys doesn't have to process it like drinking water, because it goes straight into your bloodstream, straight into your blood cells. You will feel the difference almost immediately, okay? But you can put your B vitamins in there and your vitamin C. You can put vitamin D. I mean, they have a whole concoction. And this is how athletes have been replenishing themselves with nutrients and hydration. It can also help them to recover faster if they get the nutrients in sooner than later. Okay. And we're talking about 90 to 100% absorption versus 30% when you take vitamins. You see the difference? Just think imagine how you would feel if you were taking in 90%, even 50% of the vitamins that you are taking. You would feel like you are Superwoman or Superman. Okay. So check out your local IV vitamin facilities. They're ran by doctors, and nurses administer these IVs as well. Okay, it's like a spa. I mean, it's most of the ones that I've been to, there it's like a spa feel, right? It's an experience. They have the music, and you feel like just like you would as at a spa. Some of you, when you hear IV, you probably think of hospital, right? But why do people get IVs at the hospital? Because their illness, right? Their state of being is compromised to the point where if they don't get an IV and electrolytes, they might perish, right? Or decline worse. So we don't have to get to that state. There are facilities that can help us absorb nutrients on a regular basis, electrolytes, hydration on a regular basis. This is preventative. Okay, we don't have to wait till we are in dire straits at the hospital to get hydrated effectively. Most of us are dehydrated. Okay, so I want you to reset your mindset on what it looks like. What does healthy eating really look like? If I think of food as a spectrum, what is taking nutrition in really look like? If I reset my thinking and look at it in a way that I can do other things to help me to get the optimal absorption of the nutrients that I need to combat all these pollutants. Your brain cells are the most the most vulnerable to pollutants, by the way. How can I effectively and efficiently get these nutrients into my body that I haven't thought about before? How can I reset that? Okay. I want to talk about number 3. Who's ready for number 3? The third mindset reset for 2023. All right. Robin says she's ready. All right. If you're on social media, Facebook or LinkedIn, let me know if you are ready. All right. So let's do number 3. Reset your mindset on how you understand these human activities that we do. So I'm talking about sleeping. I'm talking about exercise. Those are the biggies, right? I could talk about some other things too, but let's just stick with those because those are the ones that people normally really focus on at the beginning of the year. How many times do we say, I'm going to sleep more? I'm going to do better about exercise. It's like, don't you get sick of hearing your own self say the same thing every year? But the worst part of that is how we feel when we don't keep that promise to ourselves. Look, it's not your fault that you keep retrogressing, that you don't keep up with it. You like that, huh? That I'm saying it's not your fault. And it's not your fault, people. It's this human brain of ours. It's just functions a certain way. Okay, let me tell you why it's not your fault. Number one is that in these cultures, I'm in America, by the way. I don't know where everyone is at, but sleep is not valued. It hasn't been valued enough. Okay. And so we have been conditioned to think that if we are not working all the time, right? If we are taking a nap in the middle of the day, it is shifting the culture a bit, right? That we're lazy or we're slacking, right? Especially when people become entrepreneurs and in business, they think they have to burn the midnight oil, right? Students burn the midnight oil. Now, when I'm going to talk about the adult learning brain in a bit, but when we're younger, we could kind of get away with not really sleeping because our brain cells are more resilient. We have more bounce back. But the older we get, the less bounce back that we have when it comes to not getting enough sleep. Most humans on the planet need 7 to 9 hours of sleep to be fully recharged, to be fully reset. I had a quote for sleep. It's somewhere. Sleep is sleep is our recharge function and our reset button sometimes. So if we are sleep deprived, this is where the deeper understanding for sleep comes. When we are sleep deprived, we're more stressed out, we're more unfocused, we're less productive. There's an increase in stress hormone, cortisol, that becomes chronic within our brains and our bodily systems. It puts our bodies into fight, flight, fright. So we're more triggered, we're more irritable. Is that how we want to show up in the world in 2023? Irritable, frightened at everything, anxiety, stressed out, can't focus, can't be present. That's what happens when we are sleep deprived. Not only that, sleep is important for the reset, recharge process of this human experience on a daily basis. If you want to reset your mindset, you got to get your sleep. How many hours? Put in the chat for me. How many hours of sleep do you get right now? There's no judgment. Our brains are more active when we are asleep than when we are awake. Write that down. Your brain is more active when you are asleep than when you are awake. So there's something to this sleep thing. That means your brain has to do more than when you are consciously awake. Let's talk about what it's doing. So there are functions that your brain can only do at night effectively. So while you are thinking throughout the whole day and doing and going, you're releasing metabolic waste. So we have 100 billion brain cells. Each of those brain cells are able to connect with or talk to up to 10,000 other brain cells. That's trillions and trillions of connections. That's 90 million miles of wiring, people. If we were to stretch out the wiring from your brain, it would stretch from where you're sitting or standing, depending on what you're doing, all the way to the sun. That's how much wiring is in the brain. So that takes a lot of what we call maintenance. And so when we're sleeping, we need a certain amount of time during the sleeping process or timeline to repair, recharge, neutralize those wastes that were accumulated during the day from all the cognitive thinking. And if we don't have enough rest, then all that gunk, all that trash is going to remain in our brains, compromising the 100 billion brain cells that are already sensitive to toxins. So now they can't communicate with each other at 200 miles per hour, because that's how fast our brain cells talk to each other. So they become leaky. They become ineffective if they're not taken care of. Think of it as when you're at an office building, right? Do you see all the janitors around in the daytime, or do they tend to come do their main work at night when everybody's gone home? Right? It's more efficient for everyone if they come at a time where they're not interrupting your conscious doing and being. So we got little janitors, millions of janitors in our brains at night that need to clean up the trash from all of the metabolism that took place that was caused by our thinking. Thousands and thousands of decisions we had to make, or activities we had to do. All of that starts in the brain, people. The brain is the control center of everything we do and everything we don't do in this human experience. Every time you move, the motor cortex is activated. That is a section of the brain full of brain cells. Those brain cells, in order to move and to speak to each other and then send signals down, have to metabolize nutrients that you take in. And there's byproducts that are trash, basically. I know that's not the sciencey way to say it, but I don't want you all to get caught up in, technical words. So everything we do takes place in the brain. The brain has to process sensory information, categorize that information, and respond to that information. When we're asleep, it's cleaning up that information, it's organizing new learning. So how many of you feel like you're losing your mind? How many of you feel like you can't learn like you used to do? How many feel like your memory is failing you? And how many times have you said, oh, that's just me getting old, right? We just kind of chalk it off to getting older. Yeah, your brain does change over time, but you need to understand why it's changing over time, right? Your brain is a goal achieving machine. And if you take care of it, it will take care of you. My great grandmother lived to be 104 years old. And yes, eventually her abilities started to decline. But there was something that she was doing throughout her years that allowed her to thrive. Up until her 90s, she was ushering in church. She was an usher for the church. So there's a lot of things she was doing for her brain to stay to allow herself to thrive mentally. And some of those things were what kind of nutrition she took in, volunteering, being altruistic. That stimulates the brain, that heightens the neuroimmune system. We know that in neuroscience now, right? So we don't have to let our brains decline. And we do learn differently with our adult brains, okay? That's just sleep. So I need you to reset your mindset when it comes to sleep and how important it is. Okay. Someone asked, Lori asked, how important are naps? Look, I took naps. I took my naps in kindergarten. I couldn't wait for naps. I always loved naps. Because they feel rejuvenating, right? But in science, we know that you only need 20 minutes of naps, 20-minute naps to heighten your cognitive abilities and get you back refocused. And it doesn't have to be a real nap. It could be a pseudo nap. It could be you just turning off all of the stimuli coming in so your brain can rest. It's going offline, really, closing your eyes. If you can put in the earplugs to give your brain a chance to what? Reset. You see what I did there? Naps, 20-minute naps helps your brain to reset. Now, you don't want to go over 20 minutes because it'll put you in the deeper wave state of sleep. And then it's hard to get out of those. And then you feel kind of groggy when you wake up. Now, if you find that you ended up sleeping for 2 hours or something, that means your brain was probably sleep deprived and you needed more than 20 minutes. But 20 minutes is enough to get your brain back focused and recharged. Okay. Martha says she volunteers for organizations. Yeah, volunteering is powerful for the brain. So we have to reset our thinking when it comes to using our time and energy, right? Some of us don't think we have time to volunteer. But if you think of it, there's multiple ways to think of it. Volunteering helps your brain. It allows your brain to thrive. It allows your brain activity to increase for feeling satisfied and fulfilled. We know that it increased the brain's neural immune system. The brain has its own immune system. Okay. But it also boosts your social intelligence because now you're engaging with people or situations that will affect people. And so it enhances your empathy and compassion for other people. Those are key components of social intelligence. And some of my students know that are graduates know that I train on positive neuroscience. I focus on partly increasing our social intelligence so that they can go out there and train and coach in these realms, because it's social intelligence, it's cultural intelligence, it's emotional intelligence that's the next phase of this human evolution, this collective journey that we're on. And so having a higher social intelligence via volunteering allows your brain to thrive, but it also allows you to enhance your empathy and compassion, which then helps you to have more dynamic interactions, more deeper engagements with people, to be able to respond appropriately when someone is expressing a situation or a feeling or emotion. You can respond appropriately to that in a way that increases oxytocin, which is the trust hormone. So the higher our social intelligence, the higher our trust for one another becomes. Trust in the community, trust in strangers. And we need to get that back. So that's how powerful volunteering is. So I want you to reset your mindset for what it means to volunteer. Okay, how about that? That was extra, y'all. Okay, let's go to I can't even go to number 4 yet. Okay. Because I want to talk about exercise. I want you to reset your mindset for exercise. And someone has a question about medication. Oh, meditation. Let me come back to that. Exercise all want to exercise better. And share this out, y'all, if you are in social media. Okay. I know people will benefit from this. Exercise. We all want to exercise better, more often. But let's rethink this exercise thing, because look, 90% of us fall off the wagon as soon as we start, right? Let's admit it. Let's be honest with ourselves. Because if we're not honest with ourselves, that means we are lying to ourselves. And how does it feel when someone lies to you? It doesn't feel good. The trust goes down, right? So when you lie to yourself, all of that remains. Trust goes down. It doesn't feel good, right? But we can't really get rid of ourselves. Let's just be honest with ourselves. All right, so exercise. What are you already doing? Think of exercise as a spectrum, okay? When you think of exercise as a spectrum, you got your diehard gym people. They every morning 5 a.m., right? They do all the exercises. And then you have people who just walk to the kitchen and walk to their bedroom, right? They walk because they have to walk. Or, if they have a disability and they can't walk, they're still using their, some parts of their physiology to move from point A to point B, if it's a wheelchair or something, right? I'm trying to be inclusive here, of course. But that's still exercise. You move your physiology, right? Your muscle cells have to metabolize nutrients, right? To move, to have those movements. That's exercise, right? We don't think of it as exercise, but remember, it's on a spectrum. So where on that spectrum do you move naturally, intentionally? And then once you identify those movements that you do naturally, then you can start being more intentional about movements. Right? You don't have to reinvent the wheel. Does that make sense? Because if you decide you're going to get up early, hit the gym, work out, or go for a run 5 or 6 times a week, the brain is going to reject it. Just like when I was talking about overhauling your whole refrigerator, the brain is going to reject that if you try to cut off everything cold turkey. Same thing with exercise. We have to be realistic. That's why I set the number one mindset reset was you got to reset your expectations. Okay, so reset your expectations on exercising. And the first way is to identify where are you already moving. So I have steps. I have, a 2-story home. That means I'm more intentional about using those steps, right? I'm going up them faster. If I feel like my legs need a break from sitting, I'm going to go up those steps 5 or 6 times, get the blood going, get my heart pumping, right? I don't have to go to the gym for that. I don't have to prepare my mind and go through all the mental obstacles, okay, to do that. So keep it simple. If you have been struggling with exercise, start there. Now, once again, when you understand the deeper why of something, you're more likely to appreciate it, to respect it. Just like I talked about the importance of sleep, let's talk about the importance of exercise for a moment. Because what occurs during exercise is enhancing to your human experience. It will allow your experience, this complex human experience, to be better, to get better, to feel better. Okay. And so that can't be disputed about exercise. So exercise allows you to learn better, people. So let's say you just learned something and you go exercise. There's this little brain fertilizer called BDNF, okay, that helps to fuel those new tracks for whatever you learn. So if you feel like I just can't learn anymore, it's because you need to learn how to learn better, how to establish those new tracks and make sure they're sealed in. So one of the ways to do that is through exercise. So that's one way you can stop self-deprecating and, concluding that you just don't learn well. Okay, let's reset our mindset on what learning is. All right. Exercise also is a way to get oxygen in the brain. Let me tell you why this is important. Remember, I said you have 100 billion brain cells, right? Each one are talking to each other, up to 10,000 other brain cells, lots of activity, talking to each other 200 miles per hour. Who's fueling that? What's fueling that? So glucose is the number one source of fuel for our brains. But also, we have what's these little organelles called mitochondria, the mighty mitochondria, the powerhouses of the cells. We have more mitochondria in our brains than any other place in our bodies. Why is that important? Because the brain uses up 20% of all the calories, energy, oxygen of any other organ. It's only 3 pounds, but it sucks up all of 20%, 1/5 of our calories, of our oxygen. Okay, that's one of the reasons why we can't be without oxygen for long periods of time, because our brain cells need that oxygen in real time. Okay, and that oxygen is needed for those little powerhouses that makes what's called ATP, which is the energy that fuels the functioning of your 100 billion brain cells. When your 100 billion brain cells are functioning with this energy, that allows you to breathe. It allows you to think. It allows you to walk. It allows you to communicate, say words, create. Okay? So we're doing all of these functions with our brain consciously and unconsciously, mostly unconsciously. Okay? But it still needs to be fueled. So exercise is a way to ensure that your brain cells are being fueled so you can do all the things that you desire to do on this planet. Okay. And of course, yes, it regulates all the other parts of your body as well. But I'm kind of partial, right? Because the neuroscience, I love the neuroscience. Well, the brain is the control center, right? So it does affect the rest of the body. All right. Who's ready for number 4? We're only on number 4, people. Number 4, reset your relationships. Reset your mindset for relationships. How many of you have been struggling with relationships or lack of relationships? Or maybe you lost someone, and so now they're devoid of that relationship. Anyone? You can reset your mindset for that relationship. Okay. And relationships, you have your workplace relationships, you have your community relationships, you have your, parent relationships, significant other relationships. There's all kind of relationships. Of course, I can't cover all the mindsets for all of them. But the point is, determine what relationships have made you feel that you're in a place where you can't thrive in 2023. Okay, what upsets you? What saddens you? Identify that, and only you can do that. Okay, so let's say it's let's say it's a parent-child relationship, okay? And remember, a parent-child relationship, that could be an adult child or a teenager or a younger child. Maybe you yelled at your child too much in 2022 and you want to change that, right? This is the time to reset, right? So if you feel like you've yelled too much at your kid, the first thing you can do is, first of all, set the goal that that's what you're going to do. Reset your goal intentionally, right? Instead of waiting for the moment that you yell at your kid, reset that intention, your intention right now, today. Because once you do it in this era, in this realm at the beginning, day one, now you can set your goal, make those plans, right? Now you can reset your expectation for how you're going to do that. Maybe the plan includes, I'm going to start to pause. Let me practice pausing before I say something. Let me take a deep breath. Let me really listen when my kid is speaking to me instead of assuming. Let me make sure I'm not stressed out when I go have this conversation with my kid. You see, now you can start to kind of formulate some boundaries for yourself, but also what kind of actions you can take to make sure that you don't get to that point where you are yelling at the kid. Okay, something like that. Let's take another relationship situation. Maybe you lost someone. Okay, now there's a void. And if you did lose someone, and a lot of us lost, especially during COVID, grief can last up to 7 years to really get down to a manageable space. But when you understand the brain, you can navigate that grief a little differently. All right. And so I want you to first give yourself grace. And when I say give yourself grace, I'm really saying forgive yourself for feeling like you need to get over someone you lost or something you lost. Or a pet you lost. That's a relationship too. Because you got to put it into context too, right? In society, it's like you lose someone or you lose your pet and they want you to bounce back as soon as possible. Now, in some cultures, it's natural to spend longer periods of time to deal with your grief. It's natural for you not to do something for long stretches of time, not be expected to go back to work and things of that nature. It's natural to do certain rituals for a certain time, which is also very healing for the brain when we are engaging in rituals when we are feeling a loss. Okay. So that's if you did lose someone or an animal, reset yourself, forgive yourself. You're not on anyone's timeline. Okay. Find a way to re-engage as far as setting up a ritual or conducting a ritual, because that's healing for the brain. Okay. It gives the brain certainty. It gives the opportunity to make amends, if you will, or if you need it. It gives you the opportunity to reset the relationship. And also, when you forgive yourself, we know in neuroscience, forgiving is a type of reframe for the brain. Okay. It helps you to look at the situation more as an observer so that you are not as judgmental of yourself. Forgiving yourself also enhances your neural immune system, because when you hold on to the guilt, when you hold on to the shame of something, you are enhancing the level of cortisol that can show up chronically in your body, in your brain. Because with those emotions, the shame, the guilt is a stressor on your body, on your brain, on your what's called your amygdala. And so it reacts by flooding your system with cortisol. That's just a natural reaction. So by forgiving yourself, by giving yourself grace, by giving yourself certainty through rituals, you are decreasing the amount of cortisol that's in your system, that's in your brain. Cortisol, chronic cortisol, wreaks havoc on your brain cells, by the way. So there are benefits to being forgiving in relationships. Okay. Forgiving of yourself, forgiving of not what the person has done, but from your end, you are going to forgive yourself for, being hard on yourself for someone doing something to you, right? You're going to put it in a different context, a different framework, so that you can see optimism, so that you can move through life with more clarity, instead of being instead of it being hazy from the excess of cortisol clouding their interaction of your brain cells, essentially. I also want you to think about this when you think about relationships. Reset your mindset on relationships. If you're dating, okay, if you feel like I'm not a good friend, or I just don't get along with people when I date, whatever you're telling yourself, I want you to think of relationships as a spectrum. Okay? Why do I want you to think of relationships as a spectrum? Because I don't want you to throw your whole personality away. It's not either or. It's not either you're bad at relationships or good at relationships. If you think of relationships as a spectrum, then you can go into that spectrum and say, where on this spectrum do I light up in relationships? Do I communicate well? Where do I listen well? Right? All of those human activities are important for relationships. That's why you can't throw your whole personality away. Because once you identify where on this relationship spectrum do I show up the most powerful, that I show up the most authentic, that I show up the most joyous. Once you start identifying those attributes of you when it comes to relationships, now you can do more of that. Does that make sense? Yeah, maybe you're not a good listener, but maybe you're good at writing your communication. Maybe you're good at spending time with people, right? Maybe you're good at cooking for someone, and you like to, that's your love language, let's say, which is acts of service, and you want to do something for someone. That's a part of relationships, important parts of relationships. So do more of that. And that's not to say ignore the fact that you don't listen well. But now you can be more aware that maybe I can spend a little bit more time thinking about how I can listen better. Like, what's going on when I'm not listening? Am I distracted? Do I not really care about what this person is saying? Now you can kind of, work around what was a perceived weakness, but you're not going to let it dominate you and just put you in a state of mind that you're just going to get rid of the whole idea of being good at relationships. You see what I'm saying? Let me know if that makes sense. Rethink your mindset, reset your mindset on what you think of relationships. Jody says she gave up relationships with family and men. Oh, I'm glad you brought up family, Jody. I don't want you to give up. See, I don't want you all to give up on your relationships. If you reset your mindset on how you think through relationships, that's more empowering. Okay? I mean, there's relationships you can't get rid of or give up on. You can't give up on your 2-year-old, basically, something like that, right? So it behooves you, instead of being miserable, is to rethink that idea of the relationship with how you deal with your 2-year-old, right? And so I'm glad you brought up family, because remember, we're all on different journeys. We're all in different seasons, right? And we don't necessarily have to throw the whole family relationship away. I mean, yes, if they're toxic, absolutely, right? If they're harmful, even then we can bring in the forgiving aspect, right? Like, I forgive myself and them because I understand they're on a whole nother journey. They're on a different journey, right? And so as far as family, since you can think of us on this human journey, on different parts of the journey, sometimes we're on different paths. That doesn't mean that one day we can't converge back on the same path. That doesn't mean that one day they will, catch up with where we feel we are, right? If we think of family members or friends as we're on different journeys at this point in time, then we can give ourselves grace and we can give them grace. And it's okay. It's okay to give people that space to grow. All right. Someone asked, does meditation remove brain clutter and waste? So that's a complex question, only because yes and yes. Like, physically, yes, because it's going to strengthen your prefrontal cortex, your neuroimmune system, but it also helps to declutter all those random thoughts or all those, ideas, or all those thinking, those thoughts that you can't seem to organize or what do you call it? Rein in, right? So meditation helps you to get control of your thoughts that are running wild. It helps you to have a longer fuse. That means it's regulating your amygdala, that threat part of the brain. Okay. It's also thickening your prefrontal cortex. It's helping you to get in tune with your sense of self, that insula, so that you can feel when you are getting out of touch with your thoughts or they're taking over. It helps you to get more in control of those thoughts. So psychologically, yes, it's removing brain clutter, but also it's enhancing your neuroimmune system. So it's helping to get rid of those metabolic waste as well. Okay, I don't know if I don't see your name, but I saw your question. All right. Someone asked, do you suggest listening to audios while you sleep? I suggest you do whatever you need to do. If you feel like it will put you in a deeper, restful sleep, yes. But if it does not, if you don't feel restful, if you don't feel rejuvenated, that could be one of the reasons. Now, there are a lot of reasons. Sleep is a spectrum, people. Okay, so you have to do experiments with what may be keeping you from getting enough sleep so you feel restful, rejuvenated, reset, recharged, right? It could be lighting. We have light receptors on our skin. Okay, so if we have any kind of light coming in our room, our body's going to make less melatonin, right? It's going to, our brains are not going to realize it's in the deepest sleep, that it's nighttime. So that could be another reason, right? So there's a lot of reasons why you may not be getting enough sleep. But if you feel like you are having issues sleeping, then I would do a test. Don't listen to audios, but maybe you need noise, right? So that's where the fan comes in. That's where the white noise comes in, right? That's where, I mean, even nature has its own frequencies that can help you to put you in alpha, theta wave sleep so that you can go into the deeper sleep. Okay, so it's not a one solution ever, especially when it comes to asking me questions. All right, we're gonna go to number 6. Reset your mindset for how you use your strengths, how you do your profession, how you do your business. What do I mean by that? Your brain operates at its best when you are operating from your most strongest neural pathways, the ones that you were essentially born with. Okay, what do I mean by that? So we're all born with the same genes, essentially, because we're humans. But we are born with different variations and expressions of those genes that make up our personality, that make up what we will be naturally inclined to be interested or do. That doesn't mean we come out the womb knowing how to, play the violin, but the way our genes may have been expressed, maybe we have fine motor skills that, most of the population doesn't have, right? So, and it depends on, of course, environment shaping and curating the strongest genes that make up our neural pathways, our strongest neural pathways, which are our strengths. That's important. Why is it important? Because when we are operating from our strengths, we're not needing to use as much mental energy. Remember, I said the brain uses up 20% of the total body energy. So it wants to use its energy the most efficiently and effectively. That's just how the brain is wired. It doesn't want to use energy on nonsense, basically, right? So if you always have to learn something new, that takes a lot of mental energy. But if you learn something that you're naturally adept at and you're adding to those existing neural pathways that are strong, then the brain is, number one, going to light up, because it's like, well, this is kind of like second nature, or it makes sense to learn more of this because we already have neural pathways for this. So the brain likes to learn skill sets, knowledge, and do things that it naturally has neural pathways for. Okay, So when you think about changing your profession, if you think about being your best self in your profession, at your job, and not everybody's cut out or wants to be a business owner, or should be, shall I say. If you start to think about reset your mindset for how you use your strengths and how you operate in your profession or your business, you can start to operate from your existing strongest neural networks so that you are operating from a higher level of yourself, your most charged self, your most adept self. I mean, you're going to have more dopamine flow. And the problem may have been, or may be right now, or maybe it was in 2022, that you just weren't operating enough in the things that light you up. Your brain was resistant to doing all the things that you're not naturally good at, that you didn't go to school for, that you don't have a natural interest in. Okay? So reset your mind on how you think through your profession, your job. How can I show up powerfully? Instead of waiting for the whole company to change its culture, which is going to take time, okay? Say, how can I be empowered when I show up? So I am not reacting to the whims of whatever is causing me pain or discomfort or irritation. That's the power of understanding your brain. You can empower yourself from the inside out. And that doesn't mean external stuff is not going to come at you. It's just you're going to respond from a more powerful place when you understand the brain at this level. Okay? So when you're operating in your strengths, that's a more empowering way to show up in your workspace, in your positions, in your businesses. And when I talk to business people, for the business people out there, you have to be operating from your strengths as much as possible, because entrepreneurship, being in business, running a company, you're not designed to do everything, and you shouldn't be doing everything. It doesn't make sense to do everything. The brain is going to reject you trying to do everything. It wants to do what you're naturally good at. So if you haven't done IT and marketing and HR and all of that, but you are now doing it because you have a business, well, that's overwhelming for the brain. Okay. And that's maybe if you're a coach or you're a trainer, that's your jam. That is your strengths. You love to communicate with people and engage with people. But now you're doing the marketing and the funnels and the, HR and IT, and you're building websites. You see how you're going further and further from your strengths? And that's not to say you can't do some of those things, or some of those things don't light you up. That's fine. That's part of the discovering ourselves, right? Discovering our gifts and talents. That's part of this journey too. And by all means, lean into it if you need to. But if you have been struggling in your jobs, if you've been struggling in your businesses, and you felt more depleted than not, it's time to reset how you think of using your strengths, your gifts, your talents. Does that make sense? The brain will thank you. Do more of what you love. And that's not cliche, people. Let's see what people are asking. Jody says, I'm putting up with with manipulation, lies, and alcoholism. I think you're still talking about family. All right. Let's see what people on Zoom are saying. Yes, Robin, honor where they are at. That's a beautiful, inspiring word. Honor where they are at. Okay. Robin says, I am trying to figure out what my strengths are as a business owner in medicine since having a massive stroke. Yes, your brain does change depending on the damage of stroke. The brain is resilient, but it is a relearning of self. It's a relearning of how you can use your strengths and talents, right? And sometimes strokes can awaken other parts of your brain that, you know, wasn't being utilized as well. So, you know, so when it becomes a part of your journey, it's also an opportunity to grow in different ways and learn about yourself in new ways as well. So honor the journey as well, Robin. Thank you for sharing that. Lori says, today was a reset day. Did nothing except this call. That's a perfect way to reset, is to listen to 10 ways to reset your mindset. Absolutely. We need this downtime. The brain craves downtime. It craves doing nothing. Just being. Because we have so much stimuli. It's overwhelming. And a lot of times we put ourselves in the environment where it becomes overwhelming because there's so much stimuli. And so our brains don't have the time to process and be and make connections and recharge. It's always going. And we wonder why we have so much focus problems now. Right? So if you already have focus problems before that had gone undiagnosed, it just gets worse in this day and age. And that's for everyone. Everyone's focus has shifted pretty much, unless you're intentional about minimizing your level of stimuli and also opportunities of being and having downtime and recharging, doing all the things that we've already talked about, or most of them. Okay. Let's go on to number 7. I want you to reset. So let me run through them really quickly again. Number 1 was reset your expectations, reset your mindset for expectations. Number 2 was reset. No, you're right. It's 5. Number 2 is reset how you think, your lifestyle, your healthy lifestyle. That's eating. That is how you take in nutrition. Number 3 was reset your mindset on human activities that we do. So exercise and sleep. You know what? I combined exercise and sleep because they're both human activities. So we're kind of thrown off probably on the numbering. Number 4 was 4/5 was reset your mindset on relationships, on how you see relationships and how you engage on relationships. Let's not throw the whole relationship away. Okay. This is a really good time to be on this, this training, right? Because it's day 1 of 2023. I mean, you're set basically. Or reset. See what I did there? All right. Number 6. We're going to call it number 6 because that's what it's on my paper. Reset your mindset on how you use your strengths to empower you in your profession and your business. Number 7 is reset your mindset on how you see self-care. There was this guy on TikTok and he was like, we don't really need self-care. That's a myth. And I don't even understand why he would say something like that, but it was kind of triggering. Okay. But he's the extreme, right? There's some people who feel like self-care is not needed or not needed as much. And there's also people who think that self-care has to be these certain ways or certain activities, right? Taking baths, getting your nails done, or getting massages. That's fine. If you feel like that is a part of your self-care, by all means, they all have, benefits to it. The reason why it can be limiting for some is because that takes time, energy, and money sometimes, right? And so if you already feel a certain kind of way about self-care, about treating yourself a certain way, you are not going to be as willing to use your time and energy to now drive to go get a massage and then stay there. Your mind is going to be bouncing around. I shouldn't be here. I got all this work to do. Why am I even doing this? Right. And so they don't do it at all. And then now there's not regular self-care. But if you open up your perspective and your mind of what self-care could look like, you can see the vast amount of ways that you can engage in self-care practices that aligns with where you are in time and space, that aligns with your interests, that aligns with the time that you have to give to yourself. Okay. So I want you to reset your mindset on what self-care can be for you. Okay. So self-care can look like volunteering. Okay. Maybe you feel like, if I do have time, I don't want to get my nails done. I want to help. I do have a lot of empathy, and sometimes I beat up on myself. But because empathy is one of my strengths, if I volunteer, now it's enhancing my brain, right? It's enhancing my fulfillment. It's activating the parts of the brain responsible for satisfaction. It is enhancing my neuroimmune system. That's self-care, to enhance your neuroimmune system. I think that we can fit that into self-care, right? So you can do things that will enhance your physical being if it aligns with one of your strengths, like empathy. So volunteering. Naps, that's self-care. You're already home. If you're already home, maybe you're at the office, maybe you have a little couch, 20 minutes. You don't have to go anywhere. You can restore your cognitive abilities. You can allow your brain to recharge. That's self-care. Praying is self-care. When we pray to a higher power or the universe or something that's bigger than ourselves, really, we know in neurotheology research that when we pray to something that's bigger than us, that we feel is bigger than us, it's like praying, or it's like communicating with someone else. So it's enhancing our social networks of our brain. So we're designed to be social creatures. That's why loneliness can be so deadly, right? And it can have so many dire consequences because we have neural circuitries specifically that need to be stimulated through the interaction of others. So when we pray, the brain's social circuitries get activated as if we are engaging with someone. All right. So that is enhancing our overall well-being, releasing dopamine and serotonin, those chemicals that you would get with social engagements, right? Oxytocin, that trust hormone, that connection hormone, those make us feel good. Okay, that's so praying is self-care. How about that? You don't have to go anywhere. You can start your day with prayer, end your day with prayer. Forgiveness is self-care. I already talked about forgiveness earlier. What are you not forgiving yourself for? What are you not forgiving someone else for? Where can you find forgiveness? Because now you know forgiveness enhances your brain, right? It enhances your neural immune system. It helps you to have better judgment. It allows you to be graceful with yourself and others. It enhances your mirror neurons, those empathy neurons. Because now when you forgive, you're seeing the situation from an observer view. You're looking at it from another story, from another framework that allows you to experience empathy. That's self-care, to be more compassionate and empathetic toward yourself and others. So I want you to reset your idea of what is mindset, what is self-care. It's not just going to get your nails done and getting massages, even though, that could be a part of it. Writing poetry is self-care. That's taking your emotions and putting them down, stimulating your nervous system, and writing something that's meaningful, that's fulfilling. Poetry is processed in the brain for emotional meaning. That's why words move us. So it's not just when we read poetry, poetry is metaphoric. It's symbolic, and symbols have very powerful emotional meaning for us. Okay. And when we're able to translate our emotions into words, and it deepens our emotional meaning for our experiences. So in positive neuroscience, we know that when we are reading something, our brains are reading the words, your brain is interpreting the symbols, right? Whatever language it is, but then it also has to make sense of the words. But we know in positive neuroscience research that there's a whole different part of the brain outside of the verbal functions that activates so that it can glean the emotional meaning from what you're reading. I mean, how many times have you read a passage in a book and you just have to sit there? You're like, wow. That's a whole different function of your brain outside of just interpreting what you read. We are emotional beings, and we should have emotional experiences. So poetry allows us to deepen our emotional experience because emotions connect us. It keeps us human. So if someone tells you, stop being emotional, you should have a different mindset around what does that really mean, that I'm being human? Because we're designed for that. That I'm connecting with this moment, that I'm connecting with you. Okay, so write poetry, that's self-care. Laughing. Do I need to go further with that? Laughing is self-care. Smiling is self-care. Smiling will reset your mood in an instant. You got your release of dopamine and serotonin and oxytocin. We have research behind this, even if you don't feel like smiling. Like sometimes we're just in a mood. I don't know why. It's some kind of subconscious thing. You're just in a mood. You're in a funk, right? And maybe you're with someone and you don't mean to be in a mood, but it's not fair to them for you to be in this mood and you don't even know why you're in the mood, right? So a way to kick yourself out with a way of that mood, the way to reset your mood is to smile. And your brain will naturally release those feel-good chemicals. And I'm not saying your brain will release a lot, but it will release enough to change the state that you're in so that you can, be more aware of your situation and be more aware of the other person's needs in that moment. Because we have to think about, it's not just us people. We affect other people's brains. Okay? We affect other people's moods. We're responsible for one another. Once we collectively, 8 billion of us, start realizing that every interaction we make impacts other people's brains, we'll be more intentional about our interactions with people. Okay, we're not disconnected. So, laughing, smiling will reset your mood, but also allows you to be aware of how you're engaging in other situations as well. I always like to smile at the cashiers at grocery stores, because most of the time they're just having a day, and and so when you just ask, "How are you doing? How is your day going?" And you have a smile, it just changes. They change. There was one time, I'm going in a story mood. There was a clerk, and I could tell he was just throwing my groceries in the bags. And my first reaction was to get irritated. Like, what are you doing, right? And then I was like, I made it a point to ask, how is he doing? He was kind of short with me. And I ended up, whatever I said after that, I think I acknowledged. I said, it seems like something's going on. Are you okay? Are you okay? Because people don't really wait around for the answer when they say, "How are you?" Right? I said, "Are you okay?" That's a different type of question in the moment. And then maybe he heard the empathy in my voice, right? Because it's not about just words, people. It's about how you say words. And it's about looking at people. I see you, right? When you probably went through 50 people, but no one asked you, "How are you? Are you okay?" And so in that moment, he almost burst in tears, and he was talking about how his wallet was stolen in his car, and he didn't have any money, and he needed to buy some things for his daughter, and it was just this whole thing, like everything came out. And so I ended up, of course, trying to console him, and I ended up getting him a gift card, but I didn't give it to him right away because I wanted to ask if his manager, if it was okay for me just to give him this gift card, right? And also I used it as an opportunity to let his manager know that, hey, he went through an experience, and maybe you should engage with that. And so that alerted the manager to then help him, because he didn't know that all this had happened to him. And so he was able to get some intervention and help for a situation. And so, it could have went a different way, right? If I was already stressed, if I wasn't aware, if I was didn't have empathy, if I didn't have a moment for him, right? Because we're all busy and distracted, and we just want our stuff. We want to go. It would have been a different situation. I could have complained to his manager. I could have raised my voice at him, right? That wouldn't have helped the situation. It would have spiraled out of control, probably. So I brought that story up to say that we're all connected to each other, and we can be more intentional about these interactions, these daily interactions, as simple as they may be. We can still have powerful interactions and be responsible for our fellow human beings. Okay, so smiling. See, all that from smiling. All right, I changed the state with my smile, right? I changed my state with my smile to engage with him. So it was a domino effect. We're going to go to number 8. We're almost done, y'all. It's like almost 2 hours later. But it's good. It'll last you for the week. How about that? Hopefully the year. And if you are on Zoom, some of you will get the replay. So we'll see. Number 8, to reset your mindset for 2023 and beyond. Barbara says she loves poetry. Yeah, people don't think of it as self-care. See, that's me widening your perspectives, right? That's what the brain can do. When you learn more about the brain, your breadth of knowledge, your depth of knowledge, your perspectives widen. All right, number 8 is reset your mindset on how you organize your life, how you organize your spaces, right? So I know when people start off the year, they're like, okay, I'm going to organize the kitchen and the cabinets and the refrigerator and my closet and my files on my computer. And you just want to do all the things, right? And then here we go with those unrealistic expectations again, right? It's overwhelming for the brain. We started with number 1, reset your expectations. Because maybe organizing isn't really your jam. Maybe it's not really your strength. Maybe you need to organize in a way that resonates with how your brain works. Let me give you an example. So I have a lot of books, okay? And normally I organize them into, well, in the past, I organized them into topics, okay? Neuroscience, business, leadership. And I started to notice, once I started realizing I need to start doing things how my brain works, right? The natural language of my brain. I realized that as I reflected, this is important, that's why you need to reflect, people. When I would think of a book, I wouldn't think of the author, because me and names, that's not my jam. I would think of the title of the book and the color of the book. And when I would go around and try to find the book, if it wasn't on my shelf, I would look for the color. And so I said one day to myself, when I was figuring out how to organize better according to my brain, I said, I'm going to put my books according to color, because that's how I naturally look for books. And it's counterintuitive, but it's only counterintuitive because we're used to libraries, we're used to bookstores, right? Telling us how to organize our books. But it's okay. I need you to reset your mindset on how you think about organization. Because just because it's the norm in other realms and the culture is something you grew up with, it's maybe something your mom taught you how to do or whatever, that doesn't necessarily mean that's how your brain works. And that is one of the reasons why people keep going back to being unorganized, because the upkeep of it doesn't naturally resonate with how their brain wants things to be organized. Okay. Another reason I learned to do this personally is because I was actually going to bring on organizers to do all the stuff in my house, the things that I've been putting off. But as I started to navigate the conversation with them, they were going to organize according to how their brain worked. And that would have meant that they would put things where they thought it should go. And then my brain would then have to keep that up. But you know how much energy that takes to walk into a room and start to think? You would naturally go to that old place, right? That you put it or kept it. But then if somebody changes it and organize it according to how their brain works, they're going to put it potentially somewhere else. And now you have to use mental energy to go and learn a whole different location, right? We have places in our brain responsible for locating things. And then we have to learn a whole different pattern of thinking as we are trying to get what we need. And so it dawned on me then as well that I need to organize according to how my brain works. And that is optimizing how you use your mental energy as well, because it takes a whole lot to learn new neural pathways of skills or location. Just think, for example, if your grocery store reorganizes the store, how upset are we on a scale from 1 to 10? Like, what the? Then you gotta learn it again, and you're just walking around stressed, upset, triggered for a while until you learn, right? 10. We got some 10s, some social media. Yeah. So humans don't like to change. We like routine, we like certainty, and that is okay. That is our way of navigating the world, because we need a level of certainty and routine, because it doesn't take a lot of mental energy to use our habits. That's why I want you to reset your mindset for habits as well. I've been talking about habits a lot through some of these, but I want you to capitalize off your habits. Remember when I talked about eating? It's like, what foods, if you think of eating as a spectrum, if you think of food as a spectrum, identify the good foods you already eat and do more of that, right? Because if you do more of that, you're going to do less of the other stuff. And now your brain doesn't have to think about new foods to eat, new ways to cook it, and all of that. Maybe you want to think of new ways to eat it or cook it, but at least you're not trying to establish new habits of eating and shopping and all of that. That's a lot. If you think through everything that it takes to create a new habit, it's a lot of mental energy. And more likely than not, your brain is going to reject it, because your brain doesn't want to use mental energy on something that's on habit already. Okay? So work with your habits, people. Reset your mindset on how you think through habits. They're actually your friends. A lot of them. All right. One of my computers is going out. So I need to phone a friend. Really, my husband. That's weird, huh? I need him to bring me my cord. We're going to go to number 9. We're almost done, y'all. Who's ready for number 9? Put 9 in the comments. Okay, so hi, Dr. Rob T. I know you're in the living room. I need my cord for the other computer. It should be by the couch. It might be plugged up. Thank you. Thank you. You see, real time problem solving, people. You got to go with the flow. Okay. Number 9, we're doing 10 ways to reset your mindset. We're on number 9. And number 9 is we need to rethink how we use our brain. We need to reset our mindset on how this brain of ours can really be powerfully and intentionally used. So, obviously, I've been talking about the brain this whole time. Thank you. So you can start to see why it's so important. I mean, just think about how much more powerfully you can use it the more you learn about it. Intentionally learn about it, systematically learn about how to use the brain and all the benefits of being more intentional about it. Like, did you know all the things that I've already talked about? Did you know how volunteering impacts the brain? Did you know about the different, phases of sleep and effects on the brain, right? And just think, the rabbit hole goes even deeper. So if you want to live and thrive in this complex human experience, it makes sense to understand your brain at a whole different level and experience it on a whole different level, and intentionally fuel it and use it and become it at a whole different level. Most people don't wake up thinking about their brain. I want to change that. My mission is to empower 1 billion minds to think about their brain and how to intentionally use it better so that they can reach the highest level of their potential, and so that they can reach their goals and thrive in this increasingly human experience. And I think it's going to take all of us to understand our brains at a powerful level, so that we can find the solutions that are needed for this human experience, but so that we can collectively evolve into our higher selves. It's not enough for a few of us to know about our brains and be able to, speak and thrive on these levels. We're all connected. That means whatever happens to the climate, the earth impacts everyone, right? So we all need to be aware and intentional. We all need to be compassionate and empathetic, right? There's all room for growth in all of those areas. We all need to be aware how we are impacting other people's brains. We all need to understand that, these human experiences and activities aren't either or, that we don't have to throw our whole personalities away or throw away relationships or throw away dating just because there's parts of that spectrum that we're not good at. And that's what we've been focusing on. The brain, we can't limit the brain to black and white, either or, this or that. That's how we've been able to grow and evolve as human beings, is because the brain is continually growing and improving on itself. But in this era of human design, it seems like there are places where we are retrogressing. I talked about focus earlier. Technology isn't going anywhere, but we are seeing the dynamics of technology where something is missing. Leadership is missing. Empathetic leadership is missing. Wisdom is missing. Our wisdom is not evolving as fast as our technology. That is causing so much pain, distraction, right? Misinformation, all of that. We have to rein in. That means something else has to evolve with it. I love technology. Technology is going to fuel the next part of our journey, but it won't if our wisdom and understanding of our brain doesn't evolve with it. Okay, because we know in neuroscience, there's parts of the brain, if parts of the brain are damaged, people's morale go out the window. They're no longer able to make moral decisions or think from that moral compass. So we know our higher parts of the brain, the prefrontal cortex, is important for morality. So if people are understimulated in these areas, and they're the ones making decisions for our laws, for our justice systems, for our food, for the planet, for technology, then that affects us all. So we need people operating from the highest part of their brain power, so that we can evolve without the negative consequences of technology and laws and all of that. So we need to reset our mindset on how we use our brains. And we need to all collectively use it more intentionally. It's not enough for neuroscientists in their research labs to do the research and put the knowledge in some obscure journal that 99% of the population will never read. Right? So there has to be a portion of neuroscientists and psychologists and trainers and coaches aware of neuroscience that can bring this knowledge, that obscure but advanced knowledge, to everyday people, to empower them. And that's, of course, what I do, right? That's why we're here. Okay, number 10, the final one. We're on our way, people. We're on our way. Who's ready for number 10? Oliver Sacks, the neurologist, says, if you are working on a thing, if you are working on two completely different projects, dedicate one desk, table, or section of your house for each project, because just stepping in to a different space hits the reset in your brain. How many of you feel like everything just blended together? You don't know when one project ends to the next, or the workday ends from your home life, right? Work, even people who work at a separate building and go home, sometimes you can't even separate it in your mind. You still feel like you're on, right? So when you learn to intentionally learn about your brain, you learn to compartmentalize and turn things off, because you understand the significance of resetting your mind so that you can be in that space, whether it's your workspace or if your home space, to have better relationships, right? We talked about relationships being on a spectrum. To have better relationships, maybe it's the turning off of your working brain so you can be more engaged and present. And that's why the relationship was deteriorating, right? So you got to think of your life in terms of your brain. Look through the lens of, what is my brain doing? How am I being? What am I thinking? What am I doing? What am I not doing? Okay, when you learn to live and think through the lens of how your brain operates, you'll see in 2023 and beyond how you will thrive in every part of your life. It's when you start learning the brain at this level, it's going to be like you can see clearly, like you're seeing in color for the first time. Your senses will get sharpened, your intuition will get sharpened. And it's appropriate for the next part of this journey. All right, number 10 is, I want you to reset your mindset for your purpose or mission. Why do I say that? If you think of a mission versus a goal or a task, which one sounds more powerful? The mission, a goal, or a task? Probably the mission, right? And why is that? If you think about John F. Kennedy, he was like, we're going to go to the moon. We're going to have a mission to the moon. And everyone was like, not that I was born at the time when he said it, but it still feels inspiring, right? A mission inspires you. It gives you hope. It keeps you going even when there's obstacles, right? I'm sure there was lots of obstacles trying to get people to the moon. But when they focused on that mission, it kept them going. Okay, we're going to go back to the drawing board, right? We're going to see what feedback we got, or what didn't work, what worked. And we're going to keep it going, because inspiration keeps fueling you, even past obstacles, even past challenges, even past your negative thoughts. It will kick you out. It resets your mood, your nervous system, your train of thinking. When you focus on my mission, my purpose. So I want you to think about your mission and your purpose. If you don't have one, get one. And a lot of people are like, I don't know my purpose. Pick a purpose. There's a lot of things. There's a lot of issues on this planet you can pick that could become your purpose. Who said you can only have one purpose or one mission? Who limited us to that? If you always had a heart for young children or pets or, teaching, equitable education, do you know how many things you can do within each of those? How many purposes, how many missions you can find in those? And you can do multiple missions and purposes. But the point is, your mission becomes your GPS system. It becomes your ongoing fuel in the face of the things that will go wrong. I mean, we're humans, people. We learn by stuff going wrong. But it's how you respond to it that matters, right? Are you going to let it keep you from your highest self, your highest mission? So if you don't have a mission, get a mission. I share with you what my mission was: to empower 1 billion people about the brain and mind so that they can live as their highest selves, their highest potential, so we can collectively move and evolve in this human experience. Get to the next level of this human experience. That will always inspire me. And there's no decision, in my opinion, that's ever wrong, because as long as the decision was aligned with my mission, I'm always right. You'll always be right, people, if you have that mission and you live according to that mission. Okay? We know in neuroscience, here comes the neuroscience, people. So the Mosleys, husband and wife scientists, neuroscientists, they got the Nobel Science Prize for discovering a GPS system in our brain that helps us to navigate to our goals. I mean, we actually have a GPS system. Why is this important? Because that GPS system, they found when they looked at this, the grid of cells in rodents, they found that. So their reward was that they navigated to was chocolate. Who doesn't like chocolate? That is a reward in itself. But they found that there was a set of neurons that would fire on the navigation pattern. And the more they knew that chocolate was there, that goal of getting that chocolate was there, compared to the ones that didn't get chocolate, they became more efficient and effective and faster at getting to that piece of chocolate. Okay. So the rodents without a goal just kind of happenstance or through serendipity found the chocolate. So they didn't know that they kind of stumbled upon their rewards. But the rodents who knew that there was a reward, they became more efficient at getting to their goal. So the point is, your mission, the more you have a strong mission, the more you have a purpose that's aligned with where you are in life, that's aligned with your strengths, your mental strengths. Remember, I talked about that. The more effective and efficient and faster you're going to get to that mission and goal. So if you don't have one, that could be one of the reasons why you haven't felt like you have succeeded in life or attaining certain goals, because you don't have a strong enough mission. You don't have a strong enough GPS system. You don't have a strong enough compass to get you there. So your brain needs purposeful instructions. It needs a powerful set of instructions, not just a task, not just a to-do list. So reset your mind on how you are going to engage to get to your goals. Do you have a mission and purpose connected to it? Because some tasks are boring, right? Some tasks, you wonder why you're procrastinating. If it's not tied to your higher purpose and mission, and you're not in tune with it, you don't live it, you don't breathe it, it's not, you haven't conditioned your nervous system for that mission statement, then the brain is not going to be able to achieve it at the level that it can. It's not going to be able to navigate to that mission as effectively as possible, as efficiently as possible. When you think of a compass, doesn't it have a strong magnet to the direction that you need to go? We have that within us. Think of birds. How do they know to fly south and north? They have a GPS system. Moths, butterflies, when they emerge, right, from that chrysalis, from their cocoon, how do they know to fly, the monarch butterflies, to fly to Mexico, to navigate? Because it's in their DNA. Your purpose, your mission, your GPS system is in your brain, in your genes, in your DNA. Your DNA makes your GPS system in your brain cell, right? So it's all connected. All right. That is what I wanted to share with you. Maybe the numbers kind of got messed up, but you all know. Reset your expectations, how you reset your mindset for your lifestyle, your healthy lifestyle, how you do these human activities, reset your mindset for that. That means exercise and sleep. It goes much deeper. Understand the why. Reset your mindset for relationships, right? Where we all are powerful on some parts of the relationship spectrum versus other parts of the relationship spectrum. Reset your mindset on how you use your strengths, how you operate in your profession and your business. Reset your mindset on how you view self-care. There's a lot of things you can do to that fits into the self-care realm. It doesn't have to be what many assume self-care is, like bubble baths and getting your nails done. Reset your mindset for how you organize your world, organize your life, organize it according to how your brain operates. Reset your mindset on how you think about using your brain more intentionally and more powerfully. And reset your brain, the final one, number 10, reset your brain on your compass, how you are going to reach, fulfill your tasks, reach your goals by attaching a powerful mission and purpose that will effectively give more powerful information, more powerful instructions to the GPS that's literally in your brain to help you to get to your mission and your purpose, your goals, your tasks, all of that. All right, this has been a journey 2 hours long. Thank you for sticking with this, and I'm looking forward to reading your comments. I know I wasn't able to get to all of your comments and your feedback. I love feedback. Let me know what you got the most out of this training, and I would love to hear your missions or what you plan to do with this knowledge so you can thrive in 2023. And beyond. I am Shante Jovan Taylor, neuroscientist and success strategist and coach. And I train people all around the planet on how to think like a neuroscientist, but be who they are: the coach, the leader, the mom, the wife, the teacher, the educator. But look through their expertise, look through their lives, their personal lives, their professional lives through the lens of their own powerful brains. But to empower your brain, you need to learn more about your brain. So that's what we did today. I also have coaching, life coaching services as well. And so there's a spectrum on how to learn more about what I do at the Optimind Institute, what my team and I do with the Optimind Institute. You can go to the Optimind Institute or ShantaeTaylor.com to learn more about what I do. So remember, everyone, when you better your mind and better your brain, you can better your impact in your own world, your personal world, in your professional world, and in your business. It was an honor to be here with you today. Until next time, have a great evening. And I know you're going to have a great year if you take on this knowledge. All right. Take care, everyone. If you're on the Zoom, stay if you want. I'm going to end this.